You are chemically addicted to being yourself. Your cells have built receptor sites for your worst emotions. Your body is literally withdrawing every time you try to change. And until you understand the neuroscience of why, you will stay stuck for the rest of your life. Not addicted to coffee, not to your phone, to your own personality, the way you think, the way you react, the way you feel, every single day. And that addiction is the reason you cannot change. No matter how many books you read, no matter how many goals you set, no matter how badly you want a different life. Most people think change is a mindset problem. Just think positive, just be disciplined, just try harder. But neuroscience says something very different. And once you understand what I am about to show you, you will never see yourself the same way again. Today, I am going to break down the exact neuroscience behind why you are stuck, using concepts from one of the most important books ever written on the science of personal change. And I am not going to sugarcoat it. By the end of this video, you will understand 3 things. First, how your brain built a prison out of your own thoughts. Second, how your body became chemically addicted to your worst emotions. And third, the exact process neuroscience says can break the loop and literally rewire who you are. And I should warn you, part 3 changes everything. But you need to understand parts 1 and 2 first, because the prison is deeper than you think. Let us start with a question nobody asks. What actually is your personality? Most people would say it is who they are, their identity, their character, something fixed and permanent, like eye color or height. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. Your personality is actually a loop, a chemical feedback loop that runs hundreds of times a day, mostly without you knowing. Here is how it works. You have a thought. That thought triggers an emotion. That emotion releases neurochemistry, peptides, hormones, neurotransmitters that flood your body. And that chemistry, it does not just disappear. It reinforces the exact same kind of thought that created it in the first place. Thought creates feeling. Feeling creates chemistry. Chemistry creates thought. Over and over, hundreds of times a day, mostly unconscious. And here is what makes this so powerful. Dr. Candace Pert, a neuropharmacologist at Georgetown University, discovered that every cell in your body has receptor sites for these neuropeptides. Your cells do not just receive these chemicals passively. They develop more receptor sites for whatever chemicals they are bathed in most frequently. Think about what that means. If you spend years thinking anxious thoughts, your cells literally develop more receptors for the stress hormones those thoughts produce: cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. Your body becomes physically structured to receive anxiety. It becomes your default state, not because you chose it, but because your biology adapted to it. And this is where the word addiction stops being a metaphor and starts being neuroscience. Let me give you a real example. Think about the last time you got angry at someone. Notice how even remembering it right now changes how your body feels? That tightness in your chest, the heat rising, that is the loop running in real time, right now, as you watch this. Now, here is the part most people miss. Change does not fail at the level of knowledge. It fails at the level of the body. To understand why, you need to know about 3 levels of your brain. Level 1, the neocortex. This is your thinking brain. When you read a book, attend a seminar, watch this video, the neocortex learns. It gathers information. It creates new intellectual connections. This is the I understand moment. Level 2, the limbic system. This is your emotional brain. When you take that knowledge and actually practice it, when you do the meditation, face the fear, feel the discomfort, the limbic system gets involved. The knowledge moves from intellectual to experiential. This is the I have felt it moment. Level 3, the cerebellum. This is where it gets interesting. The cerebellum stores automatic programs, things you have done so many times they become unconscious. Walking, driving, your morning routine. When a behavior reaches the cerebellum, it becomes part of who you are. Not what you think, who you are. This is the I am it moment. The problem? Most people only ever operate at level 1. They know what to do, they understand the concepts, they can explain it to their friends. But the knowledge never reaches the body. It never becomes automatic. It never becomes who they are.
And that is why you can read 20 self-help books and still feel exactly the same. The gap between knowing and being is the gap between your neocortex and your cerebellum. And closing that gap requires something most people never do.
And what I am about to show you in the next section, it is the reason every New Year's resolution you have ever made has failed. Your body actually fights you, and I mean that literally. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable, because once the loop runs long enough, your body does not just prefer the old chemistry, it demands it. This is not a metaphor, this is neurochemistry. When you try to change, when you decide to stop being anxious or angry or stuck in self-doubt, what happens? You feel terrible, restless, uncomfortable, like something is wrong. And most people interpret that feeling as proof that the change is not working. So they quit, they go back to the old patterns, and the moment they do, relief. The familiar chemistry floods back in. The body gets its fix. That is withdrawal, real biological withdrawal from your own emotional chemistry. This is why New Year's resolutions fail by February. This is why you can feel inspired on Sunday night and completely unmotivated by Tuesday. This is why knowing better never seems to lead to doing better. Because your conscious mind, the neocortex, is only about 5% of your processing power. The other 95%, that is your subconscious, the limbic system and cerebellum running programs you installed years ago. And here is the devastating part. Your subconscious does not care about your goals. It cares about homeostasis, chemical homeostasis. It wants to keep you exactly where you are, feeling exactly what you have always felt, doing exactly what you've always done. Every time you try to change, your subconscious sends alarm signals. Danger, unfamiliar territory, go back. And it does this through the most powerful mechanism it has, your own emotions. And here is the part that nobody talks about on YouTube, not even the self-help gurus. This is not a character flaw. This is not weakness. This is your biology doing exactly what it was designed to do, maintain chemical equilibrium. Your body is a survival machine, and change registers as a threat. Think about your average day. How much of it is genuinely new? New thoughts, new emotions, new decisions. Research from Dr. Fred Luskin at Stanford suggests that approximately 90% of the thoughts you have today are the same thoughts you had yesterday. Same mental loops, same emotional reactions, same behavioral patterns. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Program. You feel stressed about the same things. Program. You react to your partner the same way. Program. You doubt yourself at the same moments. Program. You think you are living a new day, but neurologically, you are replaying the same day, over and over. Your personality, which is just these memorized patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting, has become a program, and that program is running your life. The body has literally become the unconscious mind. And this creates what we can call your emotional signature, a baseline emotional state you return to no matter what happens in your external life. Win a promotion? Stressed about something else within a week. Move to a new city? Same feelings within a month. New relationship? Same insecurities surface. You cannot create a new life with the same personality, because your personality is the problem. Now, if everything I have told you so far sounds hopeless, stay with me, because what comes next is the part that changes everything. The neuroscience of breaking free is not complicated. It is 3 steps. And the first one, the one you can start tonight, is something you have never tried before.
So how do you actually break free? If the problem is that your body has become an unconscious mind, running programs you never consciously chose, then the solution is to make the unconscious conscious. That is it. That is the core principle.
But executing it requires a specific process, and neuroscience backs every step. The first step is the hardest. You have to become aware of your unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotional reactions in real time, not after the fact. Not when you are journaling at night, in the moment. Neuroscientists call this metacognition, thinking about your thinking, and it activates a specific area of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the executive, the observer. When you catch yourself in an automatic reaction, anger, anxiety, self-doubt, and you pause and you observe it instead of following it, you are literally activating a different neural circuit than the habitual one.
And every time you do that, the old circuit weakens. Neurons that stop firing together stop wiring together. This is the flip side of neuroplasticity. Just as the brain can wire new circuits, it can also prune old ones.
Step 2 is where the real neurological change happens, meditation. But not relaxation meditation, not just calm down meditation, a specific type of meditation designed to break the chemical bond between your mind and your body. Here is the neuroscience of why it works. When you sit still and close your eyes and resist the urge to check your phone, to follow a thought, to scratch an itch, you are doing something revolutionary. You are telling your body it is no longer the mind.
The body says, think about your problems. You do not follow. The body says, feel anxious. You observe the feeling without reacting. The body says, this is uncomfortable. Get up. You stay.
Every moment you do this, you are weakening the old program. You are breaking the neurochemical habit. And the UC San Diego study from 2025 proved this works at a biological level. After just 7 days of focused meditation, the brain's default mode network, the autopilot system, quieted dramatically. BDNF increased. Gene expression changed. The brain entered a hyper-connected state previously only seen with psychedelic compounds.
7 days, no drugs, just breaking the habit of being yourself.
The final step is the most powerful. Once you have observed the old self and broken its chemical hold through meditation, you have to install the new self. This is mental rehearsal, and the neuroscience behind it is extraordinary.
Remember the famous piano study? Researchers divided non-pianists into 2 groups. One group physically practiced piano exercises for 5 days. The other group only imagined practicing. Same exercises, same duration, entirely in their minds. Brain scans afterward showed both groups grew the same new neural circuits. The brain could not tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. This means you can mentally rehearse a new version of yourself, how you would think, how you would feel, how you would act, and your brain will begin to physically restructure itself as if you have already become that person. But here is the critical part most people miss. It is not enough to just think about the new self. You have to feel it. You have to generate the elevated emotions, gratitude, love, confidence, certainty, so intensely that your body begins to believe the future has already happened. When your body feels the emotions of the future before it arrives, that is when the cerebellum starts recording a new program. That is when knowledge becomes experience. That is when I know becomes I am. And that is when change becomes permanent. So here is the complete process, synthesized. 1. Metacognition. Catch the old self in the act. Observe the automatic thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without following them. Activate the prefrontal cortex. Weaken the old circuits. 2. Meditation. Sit with the discomfort. Break the chemical bond between mind and body. Let the body's withdrawal pass. Prove to your nervous system that you are no longer the old program. 3. Mental rehearsal. Vividly imagine the new self. Generate the emotions of that future self now. Feel it so intensely that the brain cannot distinguish imagination from reality. Let the cerebellum record a new program. Daily, the old self weakens, the new self strengthens, and at some point, the tipping point, the new self becomes the default. That is not motivation. That is not willpower. That is neuroplasticity. That is the science of transformation. And here is why I think this matters more now than ever. We live in a world designed to keep you in the loop. Social media reinforces the same thoughts. Algorithms feed you the same content. Notifications hijack the same dopamine circuits. The entire digital environment is optimized to keep you exactly where you are, consuming the same emotions, the same reactions, the same chemistry. Breaking the habit of being yourself has never been harder, and it has never been more necessary.
Because the version of you that is running on autopilot, that is not actually you. That is a program, a set of memorized chemical patterns masquerading as a personality.
The real you, the version that exists on the other side of that loop, is waiting for you to stop being the old self long enough for the new self to emerge. So here is what I want you to do right now. In the comments, tell me which part of the loop are you stuck in? The thinking, feeling loop? The chemical addiction? The 95% autopilot? Tell me, because next video, I am going to give you the exact daily protocol to break it, step by step, 15 minutes a day. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because that video is going to be the most practical one on this channel.
And if you want to see the science behind this taken even further, in our last video we broke down the Dispenza versus Huberman debate and the UC San Diego study that validated meditation as a neurological intervention. Link is in the description.
Tonight, before bed, try this. Sit for 5 minutes and just observe your thoughts without following them. That is step 1. That is metacognition. Start there. Subscribe for weekly science-backed strategies to rewire your brain, because nobody else is going to give you the manual. And I will see you in the next one, where we turn everything you just learned into a daily protocol you can start tonight.